Ya ibuku percaya takkan ada batas untuk mimpiku bergerak, belajar, tumbuh jadi pelita, terangi langkah ceria. Tempat aku membuka mata, mengenal indahnya dunia, melangkah bersama, berkarya untuk Indonesia. Maka Cikal jadi sekolah kita. Disinilah tempat mata hatiku terbuka, takkan ada hati belajar bila tak bisa menjadi arti untuk sesama, temani langkah mulia. Tempat aku membuka mata, mengenal indahnya dunia, melangkah bersama, berkarya untuk Indonesia. Maka Cikal jadi sekolah kita. Jadilah warga dunia, pribadi bahagia, ajak hati belajar merdeka. Asahlah dirimu menjadi berdaya, buka hati dan mata, cerdas bermakna. Rumah kedua kita. Tempat aku membuka mata, mengenal indahnya dunia, melangkah bersama, berkarya untuk Indonesia. Maka Cikal jadi sekolah kita. Membuka mata, mengenal indahnya dunia, melangkah bersama, berkarya untuk Indonesia. Maka Cikal jadi sekolah kita. Maka Cikal jadi sekolah kita.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Cikal Bulus Personal Project Exhibition 2022, or PPX 2022. Hi, my name is Nabila Anirsha, and I'll be the MC for this session. First of all, I would like to thank everyone for joining us in this year's PPX Talk with the team Live for Passion and Inspire the World. And also, congratulations to all the presenters who have been working really hard on making their project for these past months. In this session, we have 5 amazing presenters who will present their personal project with the topic of mental health. They are Rasha with the project titled Student Strain, Kimi with the project called Walk From Fear, Myra with the project titled Project Enigma, Ira with the project titled It Doesn't Matter, and Mabel with the project called Mindly. But before that, I would like to explain a bit what a personal project actually is. Personal project is a mandatory program for all Year 10 students where they make a project based on their own interests, and through that they can develop their skills and learn new things. Now it's time for our presenters to present their personal project. Please welcome our first presenter, Rasha, with the project called Student Stream. Rasha, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Nabila. So, hello everyone, my name is Rasha. I'm from Year 10 and I'm going to present about my personal project called Student Strain. So, Student Strain comes from my personal interest and experience. My personal interest of mainly debating and basically sharing my opinions on multiple different stuff. So, previously I had experience in debating, and it's also my interest to share my opinion and basically a debate or create like an argumentative speech or essay or anything of that kind. And it's also one of my personal interests, or something that I do in my spare time, is watch video documentaries or video essays in YouTube about various multiple topics from YouTube channels such as Vox, Vice, and even about movies and video essays about movies and TV shows. So I decided to create Student Strain because of the personal interest I said before. So Student Strain is essentially a video essay series conducting 4 episodes about stress and pressure that students experience. So the theme of mental health comes from the stress and pressure that students experience, and this comes also from my personal experience of being a student. So usually people around me, or including myself, we get stressed out and we feel pressure from different kinds of people, and like pressure to do well at school, pressure to get good grades, and we feel stress from that. So the goal of Student Strain is basically I wanted to know if pressure and stress for students is a good thing or not, and I also wanted to know how we can help students deal with it. So for my personal project, I wanted to mainly research and investigate the effects of pressure to students, why students can develop pressure, and if pressure is negative or positive, and how to deal with pressure. Then I will organize my findings and create a 3 to 4 episode long video series about pressure and publish it on YouTube, with each video being about 6 to 10 minutes in length. So during the creation of my project, I needed to apply many skills, and these are one of the ATL skills I chose to apply, which is communication. So communication is used in the creation of my project, obviously, and things such as communicating with my mentor, communicating with experts, and communicating with friends for interviews for the video essay. And I also used my communication skills in the creation of the video essay itself, such as communicating the ideas that I have gathered from friends and experts into a comprehensive video where people and anyone would understand what the message that I'm trying to present in these videos. So communication also includes verbal and nonverbal communication, which means that I had to apply the skills in things such as thinking of visuals that would help the audience understand my point better, such as here you can see the example of nonverbal communication using visual aids to further help push my message or point across. And the second ATL skill that I chose to do during this project is self-management skills. So self-management skills also includes time management and also management, like self-management in general. So during this project, I applied my self-management skills through things such as creating a planner, creating a schedule, a weekly schedule where I divide the big project into weekly achievements, what I need to do weekly. And I also did time management, such as creating timers or creating certain times where I should work on my project and certain times where I can do other stuff such as schoolwork. Other than that, self-management also includes organizing my files and basically organizing everything that needed to be organized in the creation of a product, which for me is in the video editing process, which includes various and multiple clips from experts, friends, and also clips from the internet that I chose to be in my video. So going to the research process, before interviewing these experts that you see on the presentation, I conduct personal research mainly for background information. Since mental health and stress and pressure is a new topic to me, like a topic that I haven't really dived into, I needed a background information of what these things are. So that's where the need of background information research came from. So after researching for background information, I decided to interview 3 experts, Pak Agung Rahmadi, Miss Winnie Suryana, and Bu Nirmala Ika. These 3 are experts in psychology, 2 of them being school counselors and 1 of them being a psychologist. So I decided to interview 3 different experts, mainly because it's to broaden my perspective on the topic itself, and it's also to basically get different points of views for my video. Other than interviewing experts, as you can see here, I interviewed my friends as well in order to know stress and pressure from a student's perspective. So I interviewed 3 different students, 2 of them from Cikal and 1 of them from another school, Al Jaber. So in the process of creation of my project, there are 3 main parts, which are planning, investigating, and action. So the planning phase took place in the whole month of September. The planning phase includes my PP proposal, creating a timeline, and the success criteria. And next is the investigating part. The investigating phase included research on how to create a video essay, researching as well for interview and for my own topic. And this phase took place in October to November. And lastly, it's the action. The action took place in December, and the action includes video editing, promoting my video, uploading it on YouTube, and sharing it in other social medias. So one of the biggest challenges that I had during this project was definitely the planning phase. So during the planning phase and creating my own timeline, I basically used the school timeline in order to create my personal timeline. And I'd say that that's a huge mistake because I ended up going away from the timeline, and I finished some parts earlier and some parts later. So I didn't really follow the timeline as much, and that's partly due to the lack of understanding of my own project. So the lack of understanding of the time it takes to edit a video, the lack of understanding of the time it takes to write a script, and etc. So I think that planning and researching during the planning phase is really important in order to create a comprehensive and an accurate plan of what you need to achieve during the project. And aside from that, time management was also kind of an issue. Not managing my time during the creation of my project, but managing my time outside of the creation of my project, such as school assignments, semester exams, and etc. So those 2 were my biggest challenges. And of course, the last challenge is editing, since I have no prior experience of editing like a 4-video series or editing in general, actually. And I ran into many difficulties, such as my mic volume being too low during the recording process, and etc. So for my impact, the impact to myself is that I basically improved, I guess, on the things that I wanted to improve, such as the Atl skills. I've improved on planning, since I was required to plan during the creation of my project. I also improved on organizing my stuff, both digitally and physically. And I also improved on communication, not only communicating to other people, but communicating to the general audience as well. But for the community impact, it's mostly done through a survey that I put out in the video series. And the survey says that a majority of the people gained new information from my video series and would like to apply their knowledge that they gained from the video series to their personal life. So in terms of sustaining the product, well, the product itself is in YouTube, so it is going to be there for as long as it's up there. And other than that, the skills and things that I have gained from doing this personal project can be used later in my life, such as the skills of organization, skills of planning, and yeah, skills of video editing can also be used later. And yeah, I think that's it for my presentation. Back to you, Nabila.
Thank you, Rasha. That was a very impressive project. I would like to inform everyone, if you have any question for the presenters, please leave it in the comment section and we'll answer it later. Moving on to our next presenter, we have Kimi with the project called Walk from Fear. Kimi, the time is yours.
Thank you, Nabila. Good morning, everyone. Before I start, I would like to properly introduce myself. My name is Kimberly Fichasiasi, a 10th grade student from Sekolah Cikal, Lebak, Bulus, and today I'll be presenting to you my personal project called Walk from Fear. So as we start, let me give you a little bit of description on what my personal project is. Walk from Fear is a social media platform that was created with the learning goal of encouraging teenagers to face their fears and gain more self-assurance. To gain a better perspective on what areas that I'm focusing, since I would say that fear is a broad subject, I noticed from myself and also surroundings that there are individuals who will miss out on a life-changing opportunity or just a chance to learn something new for reasons such as being afraid and thinking that they don't have the strength for it. Since I've mentioned that this is one of the things that I also felt, usually when I'm in a situation with this mindset and creating a decision with it, I always end up regretting the outcomes of my decisions and continuously blame myself for it, as I realized that I was only making decisions that will lead me into walking away from my fears. So by then, I started to rethink again. I knew that fear was a common feeling and it is something that people tend to feel. But one thing that I knew for sure was fear was some emotion that you should be able to control. And in that exact moment, I realized that fear was the one controlling me. And of course, I noticed that it was a problem. So I thought to myself, what is a way for me to learn how to overcome this exhausting feeling while also learning something during the whole process of it? And that's when I decided that personal project would be one of the ways to do that. Now, as I mentioned, letting others also learn how to face their fears and gaining self-assurance is my learning goal. And how I came up with this learning goal is by exploring through my personal interest. First, we can start with the keyword that has been mentioned several times in the past few seconds, which is fear. Like I said previously, I wanted to understand and learn how to overcome this emotion. And by having fear as my personal project topic, I was giving myself a chance to learn about this emotion in the most effective way, as I knew that what I'll be learning will be shared through a social media platform as well. Secondly, we can move forward into exploring my area of interest in terms of product. Surprisingly enough, I was able to come up with a product before a topic. I knew for sure on what I wanted to do, which was video making and also handling a social media platform. I can say that I had no difficulties into deciding a product, I just needed a topic. So in conclusion, my goal was creating a social media platform that uploads a video series regarding the topic of fear. Now with this learning goal, I needed to find a way to be able to achieve it. And by that, I explored through the list of Atl skills and chose three main ones to focus on. As a common progress for any sort of events, the first skills that I focused on was research. The first skills first started in the brainstorming stage after I had finalized the topic and product. I knew that I needed to search more about those two things. So I started to notice that throughout the whole process of this personal project, I have prioritized the use of primary resources. At first, I began with holding a survey to ask students from the age of 13 to 17 to answer a question about what they were afraid of. I wanted to collect data regarding my environment's view onto this topic. And after that, I had interviewed two experts in order for me to explore further onto my topic from an expert's point of view. And lastly, I had an interview with special students so that I could understand deeply to one's emotion regarding different aspects of fear. Now let's move on to the next skill, which really helped me as a student who oftenly procrastinates, where it's self-management skill. Before personal project, I knew that one thing that was going to challenge me the most is being organized. I'll admit, before all of this started, I was very unorganized and tend to lose track of time. However, since I knew that if I wanted to finish my personal project while also submitting my assignments on time, I needed to learn how to be organized. There are two things that I focus on when finding ways into managing my time. The first thing I created was a timeline, which was also mandatory to make. And since I knew that a timeline wouldn't be enough to motivate me into continuing this project, I also created weekly goals that would have been able to support my timeline. I also created having a timeline and knowing that there is a deadline to meet by then was first very exhausting. But then I got used to it, and it really did help me to stay on track. And lastly, which I believe is the most important skill to use in any sort of situation, is communication skill. This skill was applied in every single part of the project, starting from the beginning to the end. I first used this skill when I had to communicate with my supervisors, friends, and even family to ask for feedbacks and reach out for help. And then the communication still goes on towards when I had to interview several people for my project. And I think it's easy to say that this skill was very useful during the whole progress, and I am glad that I was able to apply it. Now, I had already briefly mentioned some activities that I had done using my Atl skills, but now let me elaborate on what I had done by detailing the entire process of my personal project. The first stage that happened was the investigation period. The investigation period lasted from the beginning of August until September. During these 2 months, it was the process of me figuring out possible projects, where we were told to create a document filled with 3 possible projects, with us exploring each of its learning goal, product, global context, and so on. After all of that exploration, we then quickly move forward into choosing one of the 3 possible projects and identify the areas that I aim to express through a SMART goal. The SMART goal was a way to make a brief description of what our vision of the project would look like. And after creating that, I knew it was time to continue with the finalization of the product, which lasted during the month of October. In October, one of the things that guided me into investigating further onto my personal project was the idea of having an upcoming proposal presentation that will be presented to our supervisors and also family members. During this period, I created a criteria of success and also level of achievements. As creating those, it helped assist me in knowing my goals for the project. And during this month, I had also started applying my Atl skills. I also established the types of content that I will be posting on my social media platform. And in this case, I determined that the video series that I wanted to post about would consist of 2 videos, where the first of which was an interview with an expert, and the second of which was an interview with students. Now, to get back into discussing interviews that I conducted, the interviews period lasted during the stage of taking action, which we will move on to. This period lasted from November to December, where in November, it was mostly the interview I had with experts. Interviews were crucial throughout the whole process of this personal project, since the first interview I had conducted was with an expert who works with my targeted audience. I believe that interviewing someone whose area is incredibly familiar with my targeted audience will allow me to ask them questions that will provide me with a more comprehensive knowledge of my topic and also assist me in achieving my goals. The first of which I interviewed was Pa Agung Rashmadi, with whom I was able to learn more about fear and teenagers' life in general, and with whom I was able to discuss the different types of fear, why it's difficult for people to accept what they're feeling, why we feel it, and how to overcome the feeling. However, the purpose of this interview was to gain more knowledge for myself, so that I could obtain a better understanding of the topic for my personal project and create while also delivering the relevant and motivational messages to the audience. Kezia Ausi, a psychologist, was also another expert I interviewed, and she was agreeable to the idea of having an interview recorded and uploaded onto the platform. Her interview was very important because it is one of the ways to voice the issues of how fear is portrayed in teenage years. During the interview, she was able to discuss fear in depth, and because this was one of my products, the interview response was highly valuable and made it easier for me to deliver the message to my audience. Finally, I was able to capture the interview I had with an expert on the issue of fear and publish a video to my social media platform. The expert interview was not the only video I had posted, since shortly after, I had interviewed students as well. Finally, I was able to capture the video with the students as well, where I interviewed my friends who are Abia K, Amabella Diandra, Rayanda Sadira, Arya Pradipta, Damian Tumblaka, and Fadlan Rizal. I decided to contact and ask them to be interviewed because I wanted my main product to be a video interview with teenagers. It wasn't difficult for me to select which friends to have as an interviewee because I understand that everyone has different fears and I trust them on being able to represent any of them. So I called them and asked if they could be interviewed, and I informed them what questions they would be asked beforehand, which are: what is your definition of fear? What are your fears? The positive and negative impact of this feeling, and if they knew how to maintain or overcome their fears. So after months of this personal project, I was able to complete my product on December 30th, 2021, where I made 2 social media platforms with both username being Walk From Fear. I started with an Instagram account where I posted an introduction towards my personal project, the interview video with Kakezia, and also a teaser to the video Fear from the Youth Perspective. Although to see Fear from the Youth Perspective, you have to go to YouTube and search the link or the title that I put in here. Now we've arrived to the end of the journey, and it's time to reflect on the last few months. For personal impact, I would say that I was able to learn how to handle social media platform in a more professional manner. as I feel I had largely utilized social media platforms such as YouTube and Instagram for personal use, and this was my first time creating a social media platform for a project. And as I previously stated, I was able to learn how to be more organized. I had previously struggled in that area, and finally, I was able to understand others' perspective on the matter as well as people's feeling. And I was able to focus on one of my personal goals from the start, which is overcoming my own emotions. There are many other personal impacts that have been developed as a result of my personal project, but I have only emphasized the most important ones. The intended audience was able to witness this emotion portrayed by another person in the video, which comforted them that this is a fairly typical feeling and that can be overcome. For the community impact and the feedback form I had with essentially the same response backed up my statement. Continuing the challenges or difficulties I encountered is where I tried finding a motivation, deciding on a topic, and staying on track. But by applying all the previous discussed ATL skills, I was able to overcome each of these challenges. And lastly, for the next plan for this personal project, is that this is a project I've been working on for months, and I'm grateful for all the learning experience. Looking back at it, there were definitely times that I would change something or add something, but overall, I am pleased with the result. The video I made will remain online, so feel free to check it out. Now, that is all for my personal project and for me. Thank you for listening. Back to you, Nabila.
Well, thank you, Kimi. That was a very interesting project. Next, we have Project Enigma by our third presenter, Myra. I'll pass the stage to you. Hi everyone, my name is Myra, and today I'm going to be presenting my personal project called Project Enigma. Project Enigma is a short documentary film about the importance of youth mental health. How Project Enigma started. So initially, it began with my interest in film. I really like watching documentaries and movies, so I decided that I wanted to make a documentary film as my product. When choosing the topic, I was very eager to speak about mental health, particularly about Indonesia's stigma on mental health in teenagers. It is because from social media and maybe others take and myself, I noticed that. And also, I think that a lot of people also acknowledge this. In Indonesia, there isn't a lot of education on mental health. And because of that, some people in Indonesia tend to overlook the idea of mental health. Society often mistreats and invalidates people with mental illness or mental health struggles, especially when it comes to teenagers. And because of this, based on what I've taken from others and based on my personal experience, this leads to teenagers struggling to open up or come forward about their mental health issues due to fear of judgment and emotional invalidation. So there is a lot of stigma regarding mental health and stuff like that. So I decided that I wanted to bring attention to this topic because I feel like a lot of people want it to be understood, and I feel like a lot of teenagers would relate to this. So this is my product. My product is a short documentary film about the importance of youth's mental health in Indonesia. If you wanna watch it, you can check out my Google site, and I have the link attached there. Or you can go to my YouTube and just search up Project Enigma. So this is an independent documentary film exploring topics of mental health, particularly from teenagers' perspectives, and the social stigma in Indonesia regarding mental health. The film includes interviews with different teenagers describing their mental health struggles and how stigma impacts their mental health. The teenagers in this documentary film serve a purpose as a voice to represent other youths who feel the same way. The documentary film also includes an interview with a professional working in the field of mental health services. So, the goal of my short documentary film is to raise awareness about Indonesia's stigma on youth mental health, as well as educate and give an understanding to the importance of youth's mental health. Because I think that education on mental health is important to combat the stigma that society, especially in Indonesia, has towards mental issues. The ATL skills I specifically aimed for are first, communication. Developing communication skills is necessary for my project because in my project, I will need to have a lot of communications with experts and interviewees for the short documentary film. And I take this as an opportunity to enhance my communication skills. Um, and then I also aim to develop thinking skills. And I can develop thinking skills through researching my topic to gain more knowledge about mental health and the stigma surrounding mental health in Indonesia. Although I did not specifically aim towards developing research skills, however, through the process of researching, gaining research skills will be necessary to develop my thinking skills. The filming process itself, as well as the writing the script and storyboard, requires a lot of brainstorming, which will also use a lot of thinking skills. And then I also aimed for self management skills because the process of making the product itself requires a lot of commitment and discipline. Therefore, uh, it is necessary to be able to learn how to manage myself and develop self management skills since I have always struggled to stay committed to a certain task. Okay, so now we're going to go into the learning phase. All right, so prior to making my product, I have to do a lot of research to gain prior knowledge about my topic, which will be able to guide me in making my project. So, first, I conducted a survey. This survey is targeted at teenagers, and the purpose of the survey is to further understand teenagers' perspective of their own struggles with mental health and stigma. Understanding the perspective of teenager dealing with their own mental health difficulties while being surrounded by stigma can help me determine what information needed to be highlighted in the documentary film. So I asked questions like, have you experienced mental health struggles? What might hold you back from talking about them? Are you familiar with the stigma towards mental health in Indonesia and stuff like that? I shared this survey to a lot of my friends, and the answers I received from this survey was very supportive of the project I was going to make. Next, for my learning process, I interviewed three experts. For the first interview, I reached out to Pa Agung Rakmadi, the school counselor. The interview provided me with information regarding why educating and raising awareness about mental health is important. From this interview, I was able to understand that raising awareness about mental health as well as mental health education is important. The interview taught me how to effectively promote the importance of mental health. And then I also reached out to Ibu Dani Sadatun. She's a psychologist. And through this interview, I was able to be guided on what kinds of information needed to be included in the documentary film. She also taught me how to write short documentary film and how the documentary should be structured. The interview also suggested lists of experts that should be interviewed for the documentary film, which is very helpful. But not only that, I also learned a lot from her. I learned more about mental health. And I also reached out to Bapa Edward Andrianto, he's a therapist, and he is the expert that I interviewed in the documentary film, actually. So if you want to know what he said, you should go check out my documentary. But he provided me insight about mental health, mental illness, stigma, and he educated me a lot about the importance of mental health and how to overcome stigma. Moving on to the process of making my project, first I conducted a survey uh, and I also did interviews with experts, which I have already explained. But actually, not only experts, I also reached out to interview five teenagers, which are my friends for the short documentary film. And then the second step is the pre production process. In creating the short documentary film, I went through three stages of the pre production process. Writing the structure plan of the short documentary film is the first stage in the production process. After arranging the structure, I moved on to the second stage, which involved writing the script. The third stage of the process is creating the final structure. The final structure is like the storyboard and the script all together, and I also included like editing cues and camera shots guidance. So basically, the final structure is like the guidance for me to film my documentary film. And after the pre-production process had been completed, I started the shooting process, which took place on November 25th, 2021 until December 13th, 2021, which is like about 3 weeks. And after I completed the shooting process, I began editing the film, which took about 1 week to complete. After my product is ready, I did some double checkings, and then I finally uploaded my product to YouTube on December 28th, 2021. Um, Reflecting. Obviously, like many of us, I faced challenges during the making of this project. Those include time management. So staying committed to the timeline is probably one of the biggest challenges in making my project. The process can be quite draining when I have to balance my personal project with my regular schoolwork, and this caused me to lose motivation, which manifested in having poor time management skills. The poor time management skills made it difficult for me to stay on track with the schedule, and I also tend to procrastinate a lot, so that did not help. So, what I did to get myself back on track is I just try to pull myself together and acknowledge the impact if I keep slacking. So I made a to-do list to organize my timeline, and the to-do list helped, and I eventually got back on track again. I also experienced loss of motivation. It is difficult for me to stay motivated during the process of making my project, especially towards the end of the process when I started to experience feelings of burnout, which means I started losing motivation to go further with my project. And last, I also experienced writer's block because when making my structure plan and script, the process isn't always granted with an easy path. Sometimes I get overwhelmed by being stuck in the writing process, such as not being able to come up with new ideas, which made me feel like I couldn't move forward with the process, which led to frustration. But I just gave myself patience, and eventually ideas came back to me, and I also reviewed my notes to help me write the script. These aren't the only challenges I faced during the making of this project. There's a lot more, but these are the three main ones. The impact my project had on myself. My personal project, with its purpose of addressing and educating the issue of mental health and the stigma surrounding mental illness in Indonesia, has taught me a lot further about mental health and its importance. I was able to learn more about mental health from the sources I interviewed during the filming process, as well as understand and experience the process of making a documentary film. Overall, I think the experience of making this project has been very valuable for me. There are a lot of things that I have learned. As for others, in accordance with my goal, my short documentary film has made a great impact on others. The audience who watched the film was able to understand the message that the film is trying to communicate. They were educated by the film. They understood the importance of mental health. They gained new insight into the stigma surrounding mental illness or mental health. And some of them also found the film beneficial because they are also able to learn uh, how to deal with their own mental health issues from the film. And I was able to observe the impact this film had on the audience based on the survey I conducted after I uploaded my documentary film. I found the process of making the short documentary film very fun and enjoyable. I enjoy making films that could help and benefit others as well as myself, resonating with my interests in film and mental health. Hopefully, I can sustain my project by making more films in the future relating to the topic of mental health. So that is all. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Myra. Now it's time for our next presenter, Ira, with the project called It Doesn't Matter. Ira, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Nabila. Hi, everybody. My name is Ira, and my personal project is titled It Doesn't Matter. My project is based on two of my personal interests, those being photography and mental health, or more specifically, insecurities. Photography has been a major part of my life ever since I was younger until now. However, I'm more used to taking pictures of scenery and nature, so I wanted to try a different style through this project. For insecurities, this has been an interest of mine since I turned around 11 or 12. It's not only insecurities that I'm interested in, but it's mental health as a whole. I only chose to focus on it for this project because I think that it's something that everybody, or at least most people, go through at some point in their lives. Product and learning goal. The product of my personal project is a photo book filled with pictures that I took myself that symbolize people and their insecurities, along with minimal pages of writing. This book has the goal of promoting self love and acceptance, along with showing that although we have our imperfections, whether it be physical or not, we're all perfect and beautiful in our own ways. The ATL skills I use in this project is communication skills, self management skills, and creative thinking skills. Um, for communication skills, these are used when I am interviewing my experts, since I have to ask them questions and also talk to them further to get the answers I want and need. These skills are also used alongside my photography skills, as I have to take the photos while making sure that they can get the initial point of insecurity across. Self management skills. These are used when I have to make plans and schedule times to take pictures with my models, along with making sure that I have everything that I need for the book to get started on designing it. Creative thinking skills are used in order to make my logo and design the book itself, since I decided that I wanted to make the entire book myself. So designing it, drawing the logo, and researching all the contents. Another skill that I used is research skill, and that is used since I have to interview my experts, research online to get the information I need for the book's contents. This is the product. The two photos on the right are the printed copy, while the photo, oh, I mean the photo on the left, the photo on the right is the digital copy. For my product success criteria for the form, I wanted the photo book to be about 15 by 21 centimeters with 15 to 30 pages. I wanted to include 10 to 30 photos, and I wanted to be printed on matte paper because that is what I prefer. I also wanted to be read and opened by more than 10 people. The function of my photo book is to promote and encourage self love and acceptance while also being able to show that imperfections don't mean anything. The targeted audience is teenagers ages 13 to 17. The creation process. For the planning and investigation phase, it started with finding and interviewing experts or people around me for information regarding my topic, photography, and design. For the expert regarding my topic, insecurities, I decided to interview Pa Agung Rahmadi, who is a psychologist and also our school's counselor. For my photography expert, I decided to reach out to my cousin, as it was probably the easiest choice I had. The second thing I had to do was find my models. My models ended up being my cousins, since I thought that that would also be the easiest choice. And so I invited them to my house and took pictures of them. However, one of my cousins is located in another city, so I did it through Zoom. The last thing I did for this part is researching about my topic and collecting information to put in the book. And in the action phase, it started with taking and editing the pictures. After I took the pictures, I decided that I didn't want to edit them because I wanted them to look natural, and I already liked the photos how they were. After that, I drafted and finalized the design of the photo book. This includes drawing the logo and designing everything and putting in the contents. I did this through Canva and also Sketchbook. After that, after I finalized the design of the book, I printed the books, and then I made a feedback forms, which
helped me gather feedback for my book and my product. The last phase is reflecting. This project has definitely left impacts on both me and others. For the personal impact, this project has helped increase my knowledge about insecurities, improved my creative communication and research skills, and has also helped me try a different photography style. For the community impact, according to my feedback forms, my book was able to add to their knowledge of insecurities. After reading the book, they were able to learn things about insecurities, such as how it's something we can be proud of, how it can impact our lives, ways we can overcome it, what can cause it, etc. For the challenges I faced, one would be finding motivation. It was definitely hard for me to find motivation throughout this project, but with the help and encouragement coming from my family and also my supervisor, I was able to get the motivation I needed in order to finish this project. The second challenge I faced was time management. Along with the lack of motivation, I have a habit of procrastinating. So I ended up procrastinating a lot throughout this project and ended up turning what was supposed to be a 3 to 4 month process into a 1 month process. Evaluation and improvement. Looking at the success criteria and also the rubric I had made for my product, I can say that the product had definitely turned out better than I expected in the beginning. And although I say that, I still think that I can improve in some areas, such as my self management skills, the design of the book, and also what's inside the book, so the contents. That's it for my presentation, but before I end it, if you want to check out my photo book, you can go ahead and go to @itdoesn'tmatter_pp on Instagram and click the link in the bio, or you can also go ahead and click the link in the chat. Thank you for listening. Back to you, Nabila.
Thank you, Ira. It would be nice if you can see the photo book in person. Now, our last presenter for this session, Mabel, will present her project called Mindly. Please welcome Mabel.
Thank you, Nabila. Good morning, everyone. My name is Amabella Dian Debuti Rahmat, and this is my personal project titled Mindly. Why mental health and neurology? I believe mental health is a prevalent issue in our society today. According to the National Alliance on Mental Health, in the United States alone, 21% of US adults and 16.5% of US youth aged 6 to 17 experienced mental health illnesses and diagnoses in 2020, with 5.6% of US adults experiencing serious cases. Despite these distressing numbers, only 46.2% of US adults and 50.6% of the US youth receive treatment. Thus, through my personal project, I would like to create an opportunity for people from all over the world to learn about mental health, healthy coping mechanisms, methods, and its correlation to neurological sciences through social media. My personal project in mental health and neurology my personal interest in mental health and neurology came around in May of 2021 as my father was undergoing a digital subtraction angiography, otherwise known as a DSA. This procedure, also commonly referred to as brainwashing, is a neurological procedure. Thus, I was quickly introduced to neurology. I was enamored by the brain, its parts, its functions, and all its features. Therefore, I immediately knew that I was going to incorporate the concept of neurology into my personal project. In essence, Mindly wishes to create a bridge of understanding between the psychological and neurological understanding of the brain. For the personal project, I devised a SMART goal that will assist me in completing the project effectively and efficiently in order to receive exemplary results. There are 5 sections that make up the SMART goal, which are classified as specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. These sections will determine what I want to accomplish, how I will track my progress, the 3 steps to reaching my goal, the importance of my goal, why the goal is important to me, and when I want to reach my goal, respectively. In short, my product is a social media platform that promotes healthy coping mechanisms and methods for mental health while presenting its correlation to neurological sciences to 12 to 25-year-olds. I aim to track my progress through a personal document and a timeline. Here, I will undergo the steps of investigation, taking action, and reflection. This goal is important to me because I believe that easy access to factual information regarding mental health, coping mechanisms, and methods are very scarce at the moment. Despite mental health being a popular topic these days, a proper display of how to cope through them healthily is rather difficult to find, and I aim to finish my product by late December. An evident and reliable indicator of my success will rely on the success criteria. The success criteria will be applied to evaluate my rate of success after the execution of my project. It will include 4 prompts, 2 sections, the student design criteria, and the test/method evaluation. The first prompt, which is form, that asks what the project will look like, will be determined by how the product will be an Instagram account that will display informative and reliable information regarding mental health and healthy coping mechanisms. The success of this prompt will be evaluated by the amount of engagements received, amount of posts posted, quality, and consistency of feed. The second prompt, which is function, asks the purpose of the project. This Mindly serves as a tool to provide easy access to healthy coping mechanisms and accurate information regarding mental health. This will be evaluated by the feedback given through a survey post-project. This third prompt regarding user and audience, which asks who the project is for, is answered by the student design criteria that states that Mindly's audience will be teenagers, young adults, and the general public, leaning towards those who have mental health diagnosis or symptoms. This will be evaluated by checking the Instagram's demographic. And lastly, the last prompt regarding cost is answered through the student design criteria that states that the product will not cost any money. However, instead, it will be timely. This will be proven by any evidence of receipts or proofs of transaction. As my project utilizes the identities and relationships, personal, physical, mental, social, and spiritual health global context, I mainly revolve my skill application and development in research, communication, and critical thinking. However, this did not limit my capabilities as I continuously applied the social and self-management skills throughout my project. Expert interviews. In total, I interviewed 3 professionals in the field of psychology. Ms. Conita Lutfia, a therapist for neurodivergent children in a nonprofit organization, on the 5th of November, Agung Rahmadi, a clinical psychologist and a school counselor, on the 18th of November, and lastly, Kak Sri Wulandari, a clinical psychologist with a master's degree in genes, environment, and development from King's College London, on the 23rd of November. During my interview with Ms. Connie, I mainly centered my questions on emotion regulation and how to cope. After the interview, I noticed the passion within Ms. Conita Lutfia's words. She was deeply cooperative throughout the whole duration of the interview. In fact, I even continued speaking to her after the interview regarding her job as a therapist. She had to endure a multitude of emotional outbursts, physical altercations, and etc. from her students. With my interview with Pa Agung, I mainly asked him about self-care. My critical thinking skills was especially active during this interview to grasp numerous approaches effectively. And as Kak Wulan has a background in neuropsychology, I mainly centered my questions on neuropsychology and the brain's role in mental health. Later on, Kak Wulan's statements was included in the 12th monthly post regarding neuropsychology, as she was my primary resource. For research, I would go through tens of medical journals, hospital websites, doctor interviews, and factual blogs in order to complete my research. I would often reference my interviewees in my products to be used as primary resources. During this process, I was constantly reflecting, interpreting, and organizing both data and information to be written on my product. This is to achieve my goal in creating an informational and medically accurate product that serves as a conventional tool to learn about mental health. And as each of my products require a different form of research as I explore a different topic each post, I had to engulf myself in a different perspective to display an appropriate set of information each time. With regards to my self-management skills, as December was approaching at the time, I created an organized, a manageable calendar for me to be well reminded in uploading and creating my project. I gave myself the freedom to be creative in uploading dates so I can manage my school assignments alongside the personal project. In accordance with my timeline calendar, I began designing and researching for my product. I mainly used 2 applications for my product design, Procreate and Canva. With a total, this is the process of my first post. And with a total of 12 posts, after each product upload, I would promote and announce the upload through a number of platforms. Instagram with numerous accounts, WhatsApp to family and friends, and Pinterest. In addition to this, I would upload each post during Instagram's highest engagement hours. Depending on each day, it's around 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. But all of this did not come easy. I went through many obstacles, most of them technological. The first obstacle was that I was unable to create the Instagram account for my project as a consequence for my innumerable creations of Instagram accounts in the past. This conundrum hindered my timeline by 3 days, as it was finally resolved as a classmate of mine, Kimberly Fesha Siasi, offered to log in into the account from her house, a location where the IP address is not blocked. Through critical thinking, I decided that it would be best for her to make it instead of me. And what else could go wrong, right? Well, exactly that. During a test upload, my product was deemed inappropriate by Instagram's community guidelines. In the statement, it had said that my post included either graphic violence, hate speech, or nudity. My product did not involve any of the aforementioned claims. In fact, it was simply an image promoting healthy breaks with a drawing of a ghost wearing a face mask, a frog, a carrot cupcake, monitor, and sleeping emojis to accompany the text. This went on for the first 5 posts. Each of them I re-uploaded 2 to 6 times before it was successfully uploaded. This was a token of my perseverance. Mindly's impact. During the peak of Mindly's action period, according to Mindly's Instagram Insight Overview, Mindly acquired a total of 135 followers in the span of 31 days, with over 222 accounts engaged and over 600 accounts reached. Mindly has touched the hearts of hundreds, with its top audience being from cities such as Jakarta, Jayapura, Boston, and Padang Pur. And its countries are from Indonesia with a whopping 39.9%, 19.1% from the United States of America, 12.8% from India, 2.7% from the United Kingdom, and 1.8% from Australia. It can be concluded that Mindly has become a worldly project. The impacts of each product's content has also been perceived positively, with many comments and remarks under the post stating how they agree and should be applying the given healthy coping mechanisms into their own lives. Simple positive remarks and responses like these are what help sail the awareness of mental health. In fact, on the 12th of December, after Mindly's coping with grief post regarding how to healthily cope with the feelings of emotions and grief, Mindly was offered to become the brand representative of a mental health civil activist organization titled Mental Health Value, with over 21.3 thousand followers on Instagram. This organization focuses on spreading awareness of mental health through clothing, and they probably donate their sales to the National Alliance of Mental Illness. It was a thrill to comprehend that Mindly was much more than a personal project, and that it was becoming a beacon of mental health awareness. Personal impact. I believe that my product has given me a new perspective regarding life altogether. Through my research, it made me realize how a certain aspect in life may be intertwined with each other, despite its contrasts in features and etc. Furthermore, it made me realize that mental health is not a simple concept to classify, because the human understanding of psychology and the brain still barely scratches the surface. Thus, it made me look at life in a whole new light. And personally, for me, Mindly was like my last gift to my dad, as this was all an homage to him. What's next? Well, I've always planned to continue Mindly. I see immense potential in the project, thus I believe the door is always open for me to create more content. I plan to rebrand Mindly and achieve what I couldn't reach during the personal project period in Mindly's near future. I aim to expand Mindly in the summer of 2002, so expect new posts soon. Thank you for listening. You can scan the barcode to be directly forwarded to Mindly's Instagram account. Thank you. Back to you, Nabila.
Thank you, Mabel. That was such a wonderful project. I really like how you made the illustration on your own. So now that all the presenters had presented their project, it's time to do the discussion. I would like to invite all the presenters to chat with me in the discussion session. Okay, hi guys. I have a question for you all. What inspired you to make a project with the topic of mental health? Let's hear first from Kimi.
Okay, thank you, Nabila, for the question. The reason on why I chose mental health as a topic is the same as what I've mentioned earlier, where I myself was struggling with my own mental health as well. So, more specifically to fear, as is also my personal project. So, I think I'll say that the reason I chose mental health was for a way for me to learn and improve in that area as well.
Thank you, Kimi. Next, let's hear from Rasha.
As I mentioned in my presentation, I chose mental health from my topic mainly because of my experiences as a student and experiences with stress and pressure, and that was the main topic of my video essay. So yeah.
Okay, thank you. Now, Mayra.
I chose the topic mental health because of how much I've seen people talk about it, and mental health is in general is also very important. It's also as important as our physical health. So I think raising awareness about mental health helps others that are struggling with mental health issues to be understood. So yeah, I just chose mental health as my topic just because of how important it is.
Okay, thank you. Now, Mabel.
Well, for me, I chose mental health as a topic due to the fact that actual information regarding mental health is very scarce amongst the general network. Like, for example, if you check TikTok, there are many influencers that boast about the facts of psychology, things that you don't know about the brain, but in actuality, most of the time, they aren't accurate. That's my project was created to change that.
Thank you, Mabel. Last from Ira.
I chose the topic of mental health because it's a personal interest of mine, as I said in my presentation, but it's also from personal experience. My mental health has been quite bad for the past few years, and I wanted to show everybody that they're not alone. So
Thank you, Ira. Now, moving on, we have questions from the audience. There's a question from Radi Akbar. This is more of a general question, but how does working on your respective projects change your perspective about mental health for high school students? Who wanna go first?
I'll go first. So for me, working on mental health for my project, it definitely showed me the importance of mental health as for students, and it made my high school life, well, it made me focus more on my mental health instead of things such as grades and stuff, and it also helped me cope with stress and pressure, as I've mentioned before, since in my video essay it also shows some solutions or some things you can help to cope with stress and pressure. So yeah.
Thank you, Rasha. Next.
I think I'll go. I'll answer this question. So after working on my project, I've noticed that a lot of us, from my friends I've interviewed, we are all somewhat struggling with our own mental health issues. There are a lot of things that my friends told me that I'm like, oh my god, like same, and it just made me realize that we're not alone in this, and it also changed how I view like how to overcome it. And yeah, that's basically my answer.
Okay, thank you, Myra. Next, Mabel.
For me, on a negative note, it made me realize how social media really changes the perspective for mental health to high school students, as we spend most of our lives on social media and in front of like the public eye in a way. And it made me also realize that how coping mechanisms to mental health is really subjective. And yeah, I think that's my take on it.
Okay, thank you, Ira.
I don't think it necessarily changed my perspective on it, but it definitely showed me that everybody's, whether it be high school students or not, their mental health can be affected by a lot of different things. So, yeah.
Okay, lastly from Kimi.
I realized that there are a lot of students from the community that I surveyed who would let their negative feelings or thinkings take control of them. And for the interview that I had in general, there were students that had started to realize or understand their emotions on the spot. So I think from there, I was able to see that there are a lot of students who would neglect what they are feeling in order to stay stable, or knowing very well that if you don't come forward to your emotions, then it wouldn't go anywhere. So I think in simple words, I can say that high school students know how important mental health is for them, but only little of them actually prioritize it.
Yeah, thank you, Kimi. We have another question. It is for Aira. Do you get a lot of feedbacks? What to expect from reader after looking at your photo book?
I didn't get that much feedback because I definitely crammed my entire project into 1 month, so I didn't have much time to promote it. I only got about 11 responses in my feedback forms, and I don't really think I expected much from my readers, but after looking at my feedback forms, I was definitely surprised at how good the reactions were. So I was pleasantly surprised.
Okay, thank you. Next question. What insight that surprised you while doing the projects? How about Kimi?
I think it's mostly what I learned throughout the whole progress, because I think I need to investigate further onto my feelings, and the whole time I was focusing on that. So everything that I learned, especially from the expert interviews and also the student interviews, all of that really did surprise me.
Okay, thank you. So I think that's all for the questions. Sadly, the session has come to an end, but don't worry, we still have one more session left with the topic of arts and culture. Please go to the other link to watch the next session, who will be guided with another amazing MC. Thank you, everyone who has tuned into the session. Have a good day, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Disinilah tempat ayah ibuku percaya takkan ada batas untuk mimpiku bergerak, belajar, tumbuh jadi pelita, terangi langkah ceria. Tempat aku membuka mata, mengenal indahnya dunia, melangkah bersama, berkarya untuk Indonesia. Bangga Cikal jadi sekolah kita. Disinilah tempat mata hatiku terbuka, takkan ada hati belajar bila tak bisa menjadi arti untuk sesama, temani langkah mulia. Tempat aku membuka mata, mengenal indahnya dunia, melangkah bersama, berkarya untuk Indonesia. Bangga Cikal jadi sekolah kita. Jadilah warga dunia, pribadi bahagia, ajak hati belajar merdeka.